Welcome everybody to the Caleb Kent Podcast, episode 10. Today's episode is very different than what I usually do. This one is going to be talking about the hardest, I don't know if I would say the hardest, but definitely one of the hardest things that I had to go through in my entire life. And so that brings us to the title. The Caleb Kent Podcast, episode 10, Getting Over My Biggest High School Crush. I'm sorry. This is just so. I don't even know how to start this episode. This is not going to be edited, and the vibe is not going to be the same as what I usually do with the episodes that I have. It's just kind of weird. So, I've hold off sharing this publicly with everyone because. Okay, that part that I said was actually a lie. So, Made2Express is one of the people that I'm subscribed to, and he makes a lot of videos about life and how a lot of animations and a bunch of stuff that we see talks about like how to handle stuff. And he made a video where he asked his subscribers about heartbreak, and I shared my experience there. So that part where I said I never talked about it until now, that was a lie. But this video is more how I go more into detail about it. And by the way, you should subscribe to this guy, Made2Express. He makes amazing videos. It was a lot for me to take in, and I felt embarrassed that I went through something like this. And it wasn't really something that I personally didn't want people to know, I guess. But it's been 2 years since I've graduated high school now, and I feel like now that time has passed, things have healed for me internally, and it now just feels like yesterday. I feel like now I feel comfortable sharing this. Now, just for the record, the girl I'm going to be talking about, we're going to keep her absolutely as anonymous as possible on here. And for this sake, I'm not going to be giving any details that's going to hint at who she is. I want to keep her as anonymous as possible. But I'm still going to share my story on this because I think it's important, because a lot of people are going through something similar like this. Well, not a lot of people, but yes, a lot of people. A lot of people are going through similar stuff like this. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, when I was a senior in high school, it was the second semester, and there was this girl in my class, and I grew up with her, but for some reason, I didn't fall in love. I feel so weird saying this out loud, but I didn't get this huge crush on her until February. I would say probably like beginning of February is when I started getting feelings, because I was just kind of longing for a girlfriend, I guess. And I've kind of been like this my entire life, but around that time, I think because it was senior year, I was starting to get more pressure to have that happen. I had this mindset that I'd be complete loser, I guess, if I didn't have a girlfriend, which is, by the way, is a completely unrealistic way of thinking. I think because when you're a teenager, you have a lot of this social pressure to do this and have this done at the certain times, but now that I've moved here and gone through life, I've now realized that, not everyone's stories are going to be the same, and it doesn't have to be X, Y, and Z, basically. But back to what I was saying. Back to the story. So, I gained admiration for her, and then, I liked it at first. Then I found out later she had a boyfriend, and then as soon as I found that out, that's when things started to get troubling for me mentally. Because this was when I started to feel guilty, because, I had all this love and admiration for her. I mean, she had pretty eyes, and, I liked her voice. It's a lot of these things that, you get when you have a crush on somebody, but because I've had crushes on a bunch of girls growing up, but this was a whole nother level that I've never ever experienced. And she was on my mind 24/7. I know this is the case for a lot of people, like when they have someone that they like, but for me, I have thoughts running in my mind super fast. Like, it's not like super slow, like it's not slower, like it's a lot faster than everybody else's, so it kind of just jumps from one thing to the next, jumps from one thing to the next. But it was just on my mind 24/7, and it was very intrusive. And so this is when it was starting to like get really bad for me in that moment. But I didn't know what to do. To basically analyze what it's like in my mind, it's a lot like the movie Inside Out by Disney, only like I wouldn't say they're like really emotions. I would describe them as two different people in my head. You had the logical side, and then you had the emotional side constantly arguing inside my brain the entire time. And that's basically what it was like, to describe it to you. It was just absolute hell for me. And then later down the road, as it was starting to get closer to graduation, this is when it really started to get bad. I was slowly getting more depressed. I was socially anxiety about it, I guess. Like, I remember this one time I was out dining with my friends at Denny's, because it was like late, it was like late at night, and we were just going around having fun, and it was on my mind. I just was not myself, like how I usually am when I'm with all the boys. And they're like, "Bro, are you okay?" And I, told them like, "Hey, are you okay if I tell you this? There's this girl that's on my mind. Her name is blank." They know who I'm talking about, but I'm not gonna share it on here. And they're like, "Bro, like, I told them like, I'm feeling guilty because she has a boyfriend, and I don't want to do anything to harm anything, but I'm still having these thoughts, so like I don't know what the hell's going on." And they're like, "Dude, as long as you're not doing anything to disrupt anything with the relationship, you're doing nothing wrong." Which made me feel better, but still, it was absolute hell for me. And I try to convince myself to, just take your mind off it, or try to find another girl that probably doesn't have that's around like your circle, or that you know of, that is single. I couldn't do that. My mind was stuck on her. She's my sunrise, you keep coming up. I'm sorry, Morgan Wallen. I remember I discovered that song this year. Well, not this year, but last year in 2023. And I feel like I would have related to that song a lot. Same thing with Last Drive Down Main, but not the point. Back to the point. Either way, as it was progressively getting down to graduation, especially, I would say around spring break, this is really when I was starting to like hit hard. It was actually the first night, $100 gift card on this hotel on like the first night of spring break. It was after school that day. I go and check in. A lot of my friends, like we all crashed there because it was supposed to be a fun boys' night. And when I first got to the hotel, I was just waiting for some of my friends to get off work that day, and it was like really starting to get depressing. Especially since I downloaded a bunch of songs on my phone that was like very, that I feel like was just kind of just relating to a lot of the stuff that I was feeling. I remember this one song. It was called The Middle. Here's what it is. I don't remember the artist's name right now, but it was just kind of been on my mind. It was just kind of like a vibe that kind of took me back, I guess. And I remember laying down in the hotel bed, just like contemplating everything. And then I think I took a nap later that day, and then I woke up. And then Nathan texted me, "Hey, I'm over here." He came over to the hotel, we met up, and then we went over to Denny's that was next door, next to the hotel, and we were talking about some stuff. I'm like, "Hey man, I'm really struggling with this, what's going on?" And we were getting to talk a lot. So that was actually the last time I actually went to Denny's, actually, was when I was talking to Nathan about, this girl that was on my mind. And, he gave me a lot of good advice. He was there for me as a friend. And then later, Zach and William came over. We drove around, and I was still, I was still, I was just breaking down mentally. We spent the night there. Next day, we have fun. Everything still on my mind, but I was at least still having fun. And then a few days into spring break, I remember this, and I don't know why I remember this. I was just depressed, and like I think I remember this one time I was complaining about how I feel like I don't like barely do anything, and I'm kind of like a loser, basically. I think I remember this, and especially since, because it was spring break and I had like nothing to do, but I feel like I was wasting my time during spring break because I feel like a lot of seniors take this time to have fun or whatever, but I wasn't really doing that a lot. Despite that one night at the hotel, like that was fun, but I feel like a lot of seniors do extra fun stuff. But I don't know. I was just like really, this was like really when everything was like starting to come down for me mentally about her. And my mom was like, "Caleb, you're not a loser. You have a job, and at the same time, you did a freaking musical. You were Tin Man. I remember going to that room, and all I wanted to do was just lie on my bed and just try to fall asleep. And I think I remember crying a few times. Like, or not like out loud, but I remember like shedding a few tears because it was just so overloading for me emotionally. And then, yeah. This was during April, spring break. And then beginning of May, that's when prom rolled around. I would say prom is really when it started to hit hard for me because I was like, I want her to, be my date, but at the same time, she's a boyfriend and I'm trying to get over her. But then at the same time, I was looking around like I don't want to go into prom alone. Like I feel like I'm alone all the time as much as I am. Even though I have all these friends, like I still feel like I'm going to be pretty alone if I don't go to prom with a date. So I'm like, what am I going to do? And I think I'm just perfectly describing why I was probably going down really hard, but it was just a lot. So prom came down. I long story short, I didn't get a date for prom, but nevertheless, it was still a really fun time. And that's actually one of my biggest regrets that I have with high school is that I didn't enjoy prom and I wasn't looking forward to it like how I should have. Because I realized later down the road that having fun with all your friends and everything is a whole lot more fun than I imagined it. And I wasted all that anticipation and all of that energy I could have spent looking forward to it and just using it on this. So, yeah. And again, a lot of it came down to the fact that I was longing for a girlfriend, but, I didn't get that. I hadn't figured out at the time in my life yet that that's not what you truly need, or at least not yet. Because now looking back at it, I realized that there's a lot of things about me that at that time I needed to work on. And there's still a lot of things I need to work on. If you haven't seen how I act in my videos sometimes, I try to be a logical person, I try to be emotionally mature, but I feel like there's parts where like I get biased or I get annoying, I guess? I don't know. I feel like I naturally have an annoying voice, but it doesn't help when I'm trying to Anyway, back to what I was saying. After prom happened, things went down the road. I was struggling. I remember that sometimes after I was standing around during work when things were slow, and then my boss, he was like, dude, are you okay? And I'm telling him hey man, I have this girl in my thoughts and I don't know what's going on. I feel guilty for having her on my mind because she has a boyfriend. And he was like, dude, this is completely normal, right, man? And I just had to have so many reassurances, and that's just when things came crashing down. But anyway, as May rolled all the way down, I had, all the big stuff happens. We were having our final events in classes. We were having our sober grad night. That was really fun. And I think at that point I was like, you know what? She's on my mind, but I'm not gonna stress it anymore. I'm not gonna try to fight what it is, because I decided at that point I was gonna move to Florida for a better life and for a fresh start. And at that point I was just like, okay, it's all time to move on, I guess. So we get down to graduation. That was the last time I saw her. And after that, I haven't seen her since. I didn't even say goodbye to her. Or I haven't said the words goodbye to her, but yeah. And that's how it ended. And then after that, I filmed my very first video for this YouTube channel. Not the Disneyland one. That wasn't meant for this YouTube channel initially. The Magic Mountain vlog was the one that I made for this channel specific. That was the first one that I made for this channel specifically when I decided to make it. I filmed that video, then I moved to Florida, and then my next few videos after that, during that time, that's when I was starting to adjust into Florida. That's when I was starting to figure out what my new home is, and here I am, almost 2 years later, and I think I've come a long way. I still got a long way to go, but I already still think that I had a long way to go. All my feelings for her just faded out once I got into about a month into Florida. Those thoughts kind of gradually just died out, I guess. And then, yeah. And here I am today. And I'm just glad that it's all over with. I don't want to completely dismiss the situation because it did happen, but I also feel like it did help me mentally, and it helped me build my character, and it helped me realize some things about me that I needed to work on. Because I feel like from that experience, that's when I was like, okay, I need to, you have goals, that's good, but you need to work on some of the stuff that would qualify you as a good boyfriend. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm nowhere near perfect, but I'm trying to do whatever I can to make myself a good person and not get caught up in my head. Because that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that one day I'm going to turn into this crappy person, this spoiled, entitled, crappy person. I already think I'm spoiled, but I don't want to become entitled or, just a scumbag, basically, on the internet. I don't want to become one of those people, especially if I become popular. I don't want to become scum. So that's why I'm actively trying to work on my character. And I will say that having even still being single at 20, I've learned a lot about myself. I learned about what my values are. I've learned a lot about who I am and what I want in life. And I think that's important. Now, I just want to say for the record, before I close out everything, I just want to say, okay, to my crush, I'm hoping that you don't know you're my crush, but if in the chance you do know, please listen to this. None of this is your fault. You don't need to apologize for any of this. You didn't do anything wrong. This is all me. There was imperfections with me in my brain that led to this. This is none of your fault. You have nothing to apologize for. And I hope everything is going well for you and that you get the life that you want. And for those of you watching right now that are going through something similar, right like this, just know that you're not alone. And I know it seems like hell, but it's going to be okay. It'll all work out. Oh, and also I want to close off with this. To my future wife. Yes, I said wife. Future wife. I don't know where you are, and I don't know when I'll meet you, and I don't even know if you're from another dimension or not, because at this point, I feel pretty different from this universe. So maybe you're from another one. I don't know. Either way, wherever you are, I just want you to know this. I'm working on myself right now. I can't wait till the day we meet. I promise I'm going to be loyal to you. It's in my name. Caleb. It means loyal. I promise that I'll give you everything that you want, and I'll make sure that I can do whatever I can to be the best husband that I can be for you. That's my promise to you. And I'm excited to share my life with you. I feel like I've said everything I needed to say. That was my experience. I'm not sharing this with you because I want you to feel sorry for me. I'm sharing it with you because there's a lot of people that are going through something similar to what I experienced. And I just feel like it probably should be known just to get off my chest. And I've said everything I needed to say. I'm Caleb Kent, and this has been the Caleb Kent Podcast, episode 10. Over and out. There's no outro. We're just going to go to black because this is a different vibe. So I'll see you in the next video. And thank you for watching. And please be nice in the comments. I can't force you to, but it would be appreciated. Okay. Thank you for watching.